All right, so we got Josh Douglas here, a good buddy of mine for many years. What's going on, Josh?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. It's a little bit warmer down here than it probably is up there in Minnesota, huh?
Yeah, it's starting to get pretty cold up here, actually. The leaves are turning over, and it was kind of a little bit of a late summer, so it's kind of nice right now. The smallmouths are going to start biting pretty dang good.
Right on. All right, dude. So the 2019 FLW Tour season was pretty awesome. I mean, you've been doing it for several years now, and this was my rookie season. So this was a big year for both of us, really. And the schedule was pretty awesome. I was pretty stoked when the schedule came out, and it all started at Sam Rayburn.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. The schedule was stacked from start to beginning, and it was definitely an exciting year. And Sam Rayburn, though, talk about throwing us for a loop right away. We show up to Sam Rayburn, and it's a record flood.
Oh, dude, when I got there, you know, I started doing a little bit of pre-practice, you know, or not pre-practice, but pre-research before I got there, and of course I'm on the Navionics app, on the web app, Chartviewer, and just looking at the lake. But once we got there, I mean, it was a completely different lake than anything you would have seen on past tournament shows or even on the map. I mean, the lake was like probably 25% bigger than it normally was.
Which is tough, too. If you look at this map right here, I mean, you're literally taking that map and adding 8-9 feet to the top of it.
Right.
And, I mean, flooding out pine trees. I mean, that's pine forest down there, tall Georgia-looking pines. And, I mean, there was as much water as a guy could handle.
Right. I mean, there's some areas that, I mean, you look at the more sloping contours, where the contour lines are, you know, further apart. Those areas, dude, you could go back miles and still not be able to get to the shoreline because there's just so much water. But so it was a pretty unique situation, and that kind of threw us for a loop. I'd never been to Sam Rayburn. You went there once, right?
Yeah, I've been there actually twice, both times in October for one of those like Sealy Big Bass Splash Pro Division deals. And I tell you what, I may as well have never been there. I think that actually hurt me. And but you had to admit though, showing up there, that it gave some guys the advantage even over the locals. And I think of any lake all season, the locals really were scary at Sam Rayburn going into it.
Right. There's some guys that, I mean, were just a dead ringer to do well in that tournament, but really the conditions kind of took them for a loop a little bit, you know, and so I was kind of glad that I didn't do as much research as a lot of guys, because it would have been pretty much useless. What did kind of hold true was still those drains. It was amazing how, as high as the water was, how much the same traditional areas played. It just they were harder to kind of find those groups of fish. You know, I ended up fishing this one little drain, which is essentially just a little ditch, you know, where the water would kind of funnel into the lake, and I found one little spot and was able to catch, you know, probably 200 fish over the 3 days that I fished.
Yeah, that's crazy. You and me had completely two different tournaments. The the drain thing for me, I definitely knew that was a deal that existed, but had zero past experience fishing drains.
Right.
And they were weird. You'd get over the top of the weed line. Everything I knew about, there was like rattle traps and stuff like that. And you're talking there was in some places, you know, an extra 8-9 feet over the top of the grass. And yeah, I mean, in the end, the drains definitely held true. But if you didn't figure that out, and it's a big, bad body of water. And I think in my case, like, I hear you catching that many fish, and man, I didn't catch a limit all of practice, except I went looking for spotted bass.
Yeah. Well, I was right on the same track. I ended up finding one spot that wasn't even graphing it. You know, it was an area that I could see on the map that it was like just right, you know, that there was some good drains in there. So it had all the variables, but I couldn't see anything on the graph, and I ended up casting out there and found them that way. You know, I caught 3 on 3 consecutive casts. I mean, even when I graphed back over them, I didn't see anything. So, and then I was just like, well, there may be something to this. So I ended up coming back the first day of the tournament. It was just like lights out. It was insane.
Could you actually see them during the tournament? Did they get there, or were they there the whole time?
No, they were there the whole time. When I could see them, I couldn't see them on traditional sonar, but when I got the Panoptix Live Scope working, that's when I could see them. I could see them moving around the grass. So I mean, I didn't like thoroughly graph the area once I found them. I just essentially, you know, graphed over them, ran over them once, and they were so tightly knit into this one little cast, one little spot, the size of a boat, that you know, on the Panoptix I could see them, but traditional sonar and side scan, it was a little bit hard with the grass to see them.
How deep were they that when you were catching them?
I was fishing 14, I think was the depth, which traditionally it's probably like 4 feet.
So like the back, so that's kind of what I think I missed. I think a lot of the drains that I was looking for in this event were the more traditional drains, and I think
Right.
in the end, a lot of guys were fishing the very backs of the drains. And for those that don't know, a drain is basically a creek channel, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a channel creek that cuts into the back of the cove and comes all the way up to the main river channel.
Right.
And those fish use those drains like a highway to move in and out.
Right. Yeah, it's a good little spot where the grass, you know, of course, you got a little channel, and the grass grows on both sides, and in the center, it's kind of, like you say, kind of a highway, because it's kind of a clear spot in that what would traditionally be pretty flat contours, where those fish can kind of relate to something. So, and I was kind of on the western side of the lake, in the back of a creek.
Were you north of the bridge or on the ramp side of this bridge?
I was actually on the west side, so one of the west branches.
Got it. Right on.
The west side, yeah.
And you had a good tournament. I mean, me and you actually, I started from the bottom in this one. You know, I never could. The first day I tried to drain fishing, I tried to fish grass and all that, and I just didn't catch nothing. Second day of practice, I got in the pine trees. I figured, you know, flooded water, it's coming up. Rayburn's notorious for a shallow bite, especially when the water gets high. Spent a lot of time shallow, but man, that was just a waste of the day. I caught like 2 bass. They were probably 15 miles apart, and just never could get two things to match. And by the time that third day came, then it was more. One thing I've learned, I mean, this was my 3rd year on tour, so I learned something valuable, that points are just so important. And though I don't never ever plan on going to Sam Rayburn and catching spotted bass, but in all my idling, I was able to locate a lot of schools of spotting bass. And I knew at the end of the season that would be a 50-point difference, and we both know how crucial 50 points can be at the end of the year. So both days I basically targeted spots. I'd catch them quick, right away in the morning, get me a limit, and then I went largemouth fishing. And then that first day, man, I never got another bite. I had, within a half hour, I had a very small limit of spots. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go, you know, plug around and try to catch some big ones, try to figure this deal. Basically had to go practice.
Right.
I didn't catch them in practice, so I just had to go and try to find them. And nothing ever happened. And on day 2, same thing. I went and caught those spots. Took me about a half hour. Then I started targeting drains harder and just fishing them, getting the back. And ended up having a pretty decent second day. I don't exactly remember my weight, but it was around like 13 pounds, which generally you put your tail between your legs and leave on Sam Rayburn. But
right.
In this tournament, it was tougher in the end, but the guys that caught them whacked them. And I think people would rather know how you caught them, because you definitely started your rookie season off on the right foot.
Yeah, that was a pretty awesome event. It was an event that was pretty pivotal because I needed to know going into the tour level if I could compete against these guys, you know. And once, you know, I had that good first day, I was just like, the fish are the exact same fish that I've always fished for. You know, let's do this thing. So it was, once I kind of learned that I can compete at that level, you know, it was game on from there. And that drain certainly helped. And I ended up finding a jerkbait pattern that I caught 2 6-pounders the second day on, which was pretty awesome. So overall, Sam Rayburn was a pretty a strong event.
Yeah, definitely. I think I finished somewhere, it was like 113th in the event. Definitely not the way I wanted to start, but Sam Rayburn, I knew going in, was probably going to be my biggest challenge to the rest of the season, and it proved to be. But man, what a way! I give you hats off. Then I'll give it to you again. What a phenomenal way to come out and kick off your first tournament on your rookie season on the FLW Tour.
Ah, thanks, brother.
Remember what place you finished in?
12th.
Well, yeah, heck yeah. Get a little money in your pocket to make things go definitely helps out, don't it?
It did. That did help.